evening. Welcome to Airfix and Chill. It's Monday, and we've got a full house again. What's going on? Full house, 8-10 of us. So, thank you all for joining. We've got so many in the chat already. Loads of chat. So basically tonight, I had a message from Matt at Jadlam, and he just asked the question. He said it might be a good topic to discuss, and I thought it was a good topic as well. It's does history inspire you to scale model? And my response, no, it really doesn't, because I'm a fool and I judge a book by its cover. So if I see a box art that really pings me, I'll buy it and build it. That's basically me. I don't like Bearcats because of any history, because, to be frank, there was very little history of the Bearcat, apart from it was a bit late to World War II when the Blue Angels used them. But I built Bearcats because when I've heard one fly by me and it pulsated to my heart, I felt the roar. And I'm not going to lie, and you can shoot me down and bitch slap me wherever you like. It sounded better than a Merlin Spitfire, a Rolls-Royce Spitfire. The sound from a Bearcat is gorgeous. And I like Bearcats because of that experience I had of one flying by me. But I'm opening up tonight to everyone here in the chat, those on the panel. Has there been, have you got into scale modeling because of something that, you've learned about in school? Have you got a particular tank you like? I know that the Sherman, the film Fury, when Fury came out, people wanted to build that tank, didn't they? When you can look at films that you grew up with, you would. I could say that. There've been films that I've watched over the years. You've watched the Dam Busters. It meant all of us have watched the Dam Busters, and you would think to yourself, "Oh, I'm going to build the Dam Buster Lancaster because of the film," or the history of the Dam Buster. We all did. But really, for me, building scale models is all about how they look on the box art, and if it tickles my fancy, I'll have a go. So open the floor. Who wants to go first then? Just jump in anytime and just let the chat run through. Well, I'll jump into the chat as well, actually, on the side. But yeah, let me know. Does history inspire you to scale model?
By and large, it's box art. Probably Red Cross has got me to buy more kits than anything else. But to be fair, 2012, because it was the 100th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, I did build the Academy 1600 scale. But by and large, it's box art subject matter first. And you can't say, historically speaking, with the sci-fi kits I've built, that's any history to that. It's just like the Space 1999 Eagle. It's just a great shape.
Yeah.
There's no history to it.
But surely you can do Star Wars in history because it's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Hooray!
I've only ever built a TIE fighter. Only ever did Darth Vader's TIE fighter because it's the only one I could get my hands on at the time.
That's good. That's a good shout.
What's up with the kid doing the dad jokes?
There were 8 other people who wanted to do it. He just got there first, and well done to him, I say.
Yeah. He's learning well.
As we go,
master.
As we go around the panel, I think Adam's spot on here. We'll add this to it as well. Spin on the question: do more become inspired from history, or would it now be media, as you say, Fury? Okay, well, we can add that into it as well. So when you respond, think of that as well in the question. But Ben, your history, you build from history, don't you?
Yeah, I would probably consider myself a history fanatic to some extent.
Yeah.
So for me, it's definitely not box art. Box art will entitled to the particular kit, maybe, but when it comes to actually, do I want to build it, it's normally history and subject. So, for example, if I'm doing, I don't know, historical aircraft and carriers, etc., and like battleships, that is purely history because they've been included in some sort of event. So, be that I've got a HMS Hermes, which is doing the Falklands Wars. I've got, King George V, which are Second World War, all those sorts of things. And for me, history is definitely the main driver of what I do. But there again, I do alternate histories as well. So I don't know where that sits because, well, actually, no, I would say history definitely inspires it because when I do my alternate histories or my what ifs, they're always within reference of what the historical guidelines could be. They're not so wacky and out there that you'd go, they'd never happen. But for example, you might go, that would happen if we had more money or if there wasn't cancelled or whatever. So I think history for me is very, very important. And on the idea of, is it sort of history still or media? I think today's generation is more media, but that's because we're consuming history through media rather than anything else. And so, when you have the news on or where you're watching a documentary or something, the way we understand history instead of a book, which it may have been back in the day, even for me, it's now a case of it's through television, through media, through all those sorts of things.
Oh, fair play. And I think media's a really good one because you know as well as everyone that licensing a product has become a thing in scale modelling. When Top Gun Maverick came out, Airfix released a load of shit kits with Top Gun all over them. So it is what it is. And Revell do it as well. They release stuff with that sort of ilk branding. I think Luke says here, I think history can inspire, but that's sadly a dying thing, though, as World War II is not living history for younger modelers now, which is why I think we're seeing many more modern subjects and a different genre. And yeah, I totally get that, Luke. I think you're right. Especially I think now would be a good time for Airfix to bring out, the Operation Herrick range because that's still in memory for a lot of us. I think, and what things are seen at air shows is a good idea. What you see in front of you. It doesn't, I'm just trying to think of the last film I watched about a modern conflict, and I can't think of any film that I've watched about a modern conflict apart from Three Kings, which was that George Clooney film. Yeah. But I did get heavily involved in what's that show called about the woman and the terrorist? It was Damien Lewis from he was
Homeland.
That's it. And they talked about flashbacks to him in the war there and stuff, but we don't have many film. There's no film about what happened in the Falklands. There's never been a film about the Falklands, has there?
I mean, it depends what you're talking about in terms of media consumption and what you're defining as sort of like modern wars. If you're going back to the Falklands in that era, I think there's a lot on the Gulf War because a lot of media is American driven. So there's like Jarhead. There's a couple to do. American Sniper is in there to do with Iraq, the Second Iraq War. There's a lot to do with that. Most media you're going to. Yeah, Hurt Locker as well. There's a whole load of them. Whereas if you're talking about modern conflict, so let's say Falkland onwards, if you're going to do it in media or visual media, it's tending to still be through documentaries a lot of the time, or Netflix films. Like whether they're not a series, they're like a docu-film. I don't know how you would call it. That tends to be your modern conflict because it's an easier consumption because, like you say, most people immediately afterwards probably don't want to watch a film about it. But 20, 30 years later, they may then wish to watch films or it becomes part of, popular culture.
Yeah. That's the thing, popular culture, isn't it? It's the cultural thing. We're England, so we like to build English and American things.
This beer's going back and forth.
I was going to say, hang on, there's a proud Welshman here. Careful, careful.
Yeah.
What's that you got behind you there, Mike?
Welsh flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welsh Army.
It was only
Yeah.
St. David's Day yesterday.
Was it St. David's Day?
1st of March.
Really? Oh yeah. And do you know what? We don't celebrate it, do we? I wonder why. Yeah, Hadegawa. Yeah, same with Hadegawa. These anniversary kits. Yeah. Have you seen the Tank German film? No, I haven't.
No.
Amazon.
My dad instilled a love of RAF. Sorry, go on, carry on.
Is that the Battle of the Bulge?
Can't
There's
remember.
loads of
No, they brought a film out about a tiger tank, haven't they?
Right, that's the one. I think it's probably.
Yeah, I think it's called Tank. It's on Amazon or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to have a look at that.
Yeah.
My dad instilled a love of RAF aircraft as he served, and then I got involved with the Warbird world, which made me go for types flown in. Box art isn't important; it's the past and involvement with it. Yeah, I get that. I was just going to say, like for instance, the Stolly. I built a Stolly. I put it on, put it out on model shows, and and I've shown it around town here. People have come to my house, and I've showed them this, the Stalwart, and anyone that's been in the military, I've been in one of them. I've been in one of them. You know what I mean? So if you've been in one of them, would you want to build it? Of course you would.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If they made it, I'd build it, but nobody does.
Yeah.
Closest I've been to anything that's actually built is either a long wheelbase Land Rover or a Bedford MK.
Yeah.
That's off the shelf kit, but the truck I used as part of my job, nobody makes. The MK part's fine, but what went on the back is you just can't get it.
Or was it the Ubri or something?
I was a radio truck. I was a radio op.
I built the Concorde because my mum flew in it and landed in Exeter on it. So that could be history, I suppose. There's a personal history, you know what I mean?
There's local history as well.
Yeah.
Like you say, during the war, a Ju-88 accidentally landed at Chivenna. So I built one.
You built one?
Yeah. Noel Coward borrowed it for the making of the film in which we served. So if you watch that film, you actually see it. He borrowed it. But it took a lot of research to find out what it looked like when it landed. And
I would. Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say I think if you see something, if you go to a museum or something and you see a particular plane and you think that's lovely, you can end up going back on scale mates looking for it. It has to be visual for me. It's not about like the Mosquito. I didn't build the Mosquito because of any history of it. I built it because Airfix released one, and the box art looked good on it. And when I read the reviews, I thought it was good. But I don't really know of any real historical raids than the Mosquito. And it's probably poor form on me for not reading up on the Mosquito. But I don't know. It would, to hear of it bombing somewhere in Germany did not give me the inspiration to build that Mosquito. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, I think the most famous Mozzie raid off the top of my head is probably the one on the Gestapo offices in the Netherlands. I think where they attacked that, and I think there's a couple of shipping activity ones where they were.
There's one where they flew in at treetop height, didn't they, and attacked this prison. The day before they were all going to be executed.
That's the one. Yeah, I think that was the Gestapo prison.
Yeah, they dropped bombs with delayed action fuses and such like. There was all sorts of things about that.
See, if I tell you, there would be, because I got quite involved in reading up about the bouncing bomb. I did when I was, I read a book about. It wasn't the Dan Buster book. It was a book about the history of Barnes Wallis.
Yeah,
and not a lot of people know that they did develop a bouncing bomb for the Mosquito.
Yeah, it's called Highball.
Yeah, Highball. That's it, Highball. I was trying to think then what it was called. And I would love to build a Mozzie with that prototype bomb underneath it, but no one does one. See, so again, that's a historical thing.
You can make it out of milliput moss, couldn't you? The bomb.
Yeah, you could do actually. Yeah, but what about you, Jim? Do you build for history, or because of, or have you got like an affiliation to a certain bird?
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything. So, in some ways, I'm like you, Moz. If it's visually appealing as a subject, or if it's a unique subject, or just if it just flips my switch, then I'm all about it. Do I specifically build for history? No. Will history inspire something? It could.
Yeah.
Case in point, we just had a 101-year-old gentleman from the Korean War, Royce Williams. He's a retired captain. Had a epic 35-minute dogfight and shot down 4 MiG-15s out of 7 that had jumped them, and and it was all hush hush because it was Soviet pilots, and at that time that couldn't get out because there was risking further escalation of the war, and they didn't want that. So his story was kept under wraps forever until just recently, that came out. Well, and so now I think he got the Silver Star or Navy Cross, and then it was upgraded to the Medal of Honor. That got me to thinking, wow, I'm not a big Panther fan. I'm not a big 50s jet fan, Banshees and Panthers and Cougars but that being, one guy shooting 4 down, being jumped by 7, and that would inspire me, So the classic response is it depends. And it just depends. Am I a sucker for box art? I love Hasagawa box art. Okay.
Yeah.
Would I buy the kit based on box art? Well, maybe not, but it could inspire me to take another look and suck me in. So you go to a movie, it's like, oh, wow. When Avatar came out, I'm watching that. I'm going, I wonder how long it's going to take them to make those 4-rotored things. Somebody's going to come up with a model of that.
Yeah.
And I kind of got, and then all the big cruiser ships coming in, like, oh, that'd be cool to do. And then the wheels start spinning, and then luckily that one went away. But it just all depends. For me personally, and I can see, there's modelers out there that they're big history buffs and they're modelers, and those two things come together perfectly, and then they'll build a certain Panther or Panzer or whatever that was knocked out. That was some famous tank commander, or whatever, and they get knocked out. Or there's a tons of photos out there that could inspire. It's like, I want to do a Panzer IV knocked out. And then they'll look for photos of Panzer IVs that are knocked out, and they'll find something that they want to try to replicate or come as close as they can to. So, indirectly history can, influence. It just, I watched the movie Rush with James Hunt and the Niki Lauda movie. It's like, I gotta do that car, and I got to do both of those cars. I'm not that big of a car. So it's wherever your inspiration comes from.
So it works both ways. Adam Scale Mulligan, cracking comment here. The flip side of the war not being for younger modelers, World War II is still a major subject in entertainment, even in gaming itself. You have endless numbers of titles dropping in the last 2 years, and I was just thinking then, World of Tanks.
Yeah.
Surely that would be inspiring to a game player. If they play a tank, would that inspire them to build that tank that they're learning about in World of Tanks? Go on,
Well, Italia have quite a successful run of World of Tanks backed vehicles and tanks, don't they? So
you say that, Moz, about obviously people inspired about online games or gaming stuff like that, World of Tanks, COD, all of those sort of games. But my favourite movie is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the 1991 film, Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
But it hasn't inspired me to build all the models, unfortunately. I love the movie.
But was there any models in? Yeah, but was there any models in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves?
Yeah, there is. There's the Locksley Castle, I think you can get, or Sherwood Castle you can get.
Yeah, come on. Airfix have just announced their vintage classic, Robin Hood sets, haven't they? Come on. Yeah. It's a perfect build.
But it doesn't. It hasn't inspired me over the years collect anything like that, but because I mainly concentrate on Second World War. But that's my history. Well, I like the history, and I learned that a lot at school. And that's inspired me, like obviously films like the Battle of Britain, Battle of the Bulge, Guns of Navarro, the Red Ball Express. Literally there, Celtic West. Dam Busters, 63 Squadron, Saving Private Ryan. See, they've all inspired me, and that's what I do. So history is always something to me. But I just like the vehicles, the tanks.
I've actually done the Battle of Britain film a couple of years ago. The principal aircraft. The hardest one was the Heinkel.
I
had to get a 3D printed kit from Spain to do the engines.
I was going to say, I've got some resin cast engines, I think, of the Casa engines as well. I've got like a fleet of them.
Turned out quite nice. Even had the back form top canopy. So it's totally enclosed. I wanted to do Tora, but unfortunately, they hammered around the aircraft so much. There's too much scratch building for me.
Ace Trains and Models says there is a lot of different versions of aircraft. Take the F-14 Tomcat. There's a lot of history and media out there for aircraft. So the use of history helps people learn about different aircraft. But is it inspiring enough for them to build the aircraft? That's the ticket. I'm just trying to think of something that's recent that I just don't. Historical value. We are getting to that side.
Masters of Air got a lot of people to building B-17s.
Memphis Bell.
Yeah. Well, you talk about recent history? Shall we say a certain model company marketing the Ghost of Kiev?
Yes,
29. So that's pretty recent,
and it was a lie as well.
Yeah, propaganda.
See, that's a really good point. I never thought of that. Because with the Ukrainian war, I think Tamiya. I could until I read it and saw it in the box. I couldn't believe that Tamiya would involve itself politically by bringing out a Leopard with Ukrainian scheme.
But they weren't the only company, so I don't think. I mean, you've got the Great Wall hobby, and there was some wondering about would the model company take grief from the government because they were marketing a Ukrainian subject. And, so there's that. There's the Leopard that you mentioned. So those are the two off the top of my head that I could.
That's the thing, but because I know Airfix wouldn't do it because they were already bitten from 10 years ago with Operation Herrick.
But just think about it, Moz. Is it political or is it historical? Because it's a historical record that Leopards, Challengers, and Abrams served on the Ukrainian side. So by releasing those kits, is it political or are you simply representing what was there at the time? Because, for example, what would you have said, say, in the 1950s, so in a similar-ish time period, of a company producing a Messerschmitt 109? Would that have been political at that point, or would that have been historical?
No, because what I'm trying to get at is that when Airfix were releasing Spitfires, Heinkels, Messerschmitts, the war had already ended 15 years ago. The Leopard is a current war. It's a current war zone. If you see what I mean, it was current, and that's why I thought it was a bit of a shock to see Tamiya do that, because would they have released they've got a few Russian tanks, haven't they, in there? But I don't know. It's a difficult one. I just felt that they were getting on the bandwagon, and if you released, and it was a statement from Japan, I guess, or from Tamiya, that Russia's in the wrong, and that to me, when you're trying to sell product, whether it's to the Soviets, because that's what Japan are doing, you're trying to sell that product to do it in Ukrainian. I can see why ICM did it, because they're a Ukrainian company.
Yeah.
But I don't think Revell did anything Ukrainian, did they?
I don't know. I remember.
Not per se, but it's the international markets they're selling to. Remember, Japan is somewhat Asia-based for kits, but mostly a lot of Western Hemisphere. So if they were to produce those kits, there's not going to be a massive uproar about them per se. Whereas, like you say, if they were to do the Russian stuff, there would be, it wouldn't sell well. And it's probably, like I suspect, Zvezda maybe has done particular releases maybe only available in Russia, with certain details added. You would never sell them here ever, and you'd have issues. But again, it depends on someone's definition of political versus historical.
Yeah.
Was it just a cash in?
Well, this is what I'm saying. It was current, and when we were, did Airfix release kits with a Vietnam ethos when the Vietnam War was on? I don't think they did. I think it was after the Vietnam War finished, and they started doing.
I want to say the War Phantom though wasn't that done in? It must have been the 60s or the 70s, so it would have been.
And Brett and John can back me up on this. I would think, if my memory serves me correct. I mean, we saw in the 70s, we saw kits of all the everything used over there at that time. So that was just there.
Yeah.
Trumpeter released a T-72 with anti-drone cage armor, and it showed a turret being blown up in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that actually. Yeah,
I think the Great Wall and started doing some, or Mang started doing some Merkavas with the armor on top for the latest conflict there. So
yeah,
it's just an interesting point, Moss. But rifle model, Amusing Hobby, and Zvezda have all released a T-80 tank in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
New tools.
Yeah. But I just, as I said, I always felt that when it's raw, I presume that would they be releasing stuff like that? I don't know. I'm just saying it was definitely.
I think it depends on the country as well, Moss, because this country is very prone to attacking anything they can. I think countries like Russia and North Korea and China aren't.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of it in that sort of guise.
Yeah, I mean the Operation Herrick issue with that bombed out. Was it a bombed out hut?
Yeah,
Afghan hut or something. Somebody jumped on it from government, didn't they? Had nothing to do with history.
Yeah.
I think it would be classed as what would be insensitive topics. If you're simply doing a vehicle without the context, that would be deemed historical. If you do, for example, I don't know, you do a particular scenario where troops injured or something, and you make it more of a bit of a diorama set, to which implies certain possible political arguments, then that would be a political kit rather than a historical kit. So I think the fact that, when Tamiya released those Ukrainian armored vehicles, they were literally the armored vehicles. There was no slogans on it. There was nothing surrounding it. It was just the subject. And I think the subject being absence of the context, which again is a bit weird if we're saying it's based on history and we're sort of like forgetting the contextual history around it. But that makes it fine to sell in the short term. I think maybe later on, if you were to then add more context to it, it becomes an issue, and it depends on your market. Is the main thing. But I think having historical kits or historically accurate kits is good, and I think it's a big driver of the hobby in general.
If manufacturers didn't get involved in politics or in history, what would they make for people out or produce as kit wise? What would they do?
Flowers.
Yeah, flowers.
Flowers, yeah.
Flowers.
Little birds.
We live, unfortunately, we live in a different time now. We're afraid to offend.
Yeah.
Somebody will get upset about something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea of history and model is they're related, but one doesn't spawn the other to some extent. And I would support that statement by saying that quite a lot of manufacturers of model kits actually put a little potted history in their model instructions for people to read. I suppose it is from there that my shall we call them billets doux that I write on Substack have taken flower to some extent, and it comes from my own interest from years ago when I was part of a forces family. I was an air cadet, and throughout all that we were told about the history of the aircraft that we were looking at, and I wanted to understand it better from perhaps from an engagement perspective, from a perspective of the technology. I mean, all of the Second World War aircraft really were built at the very edge of technology, and one has to look into that to understand this. When you think about things like aeroelastic flutter and Mach tuck and things of aerodynamic things of this kind, they were very little understood at that time. And I've been inspired to look at various things for that reason. I mean, I've done a piece on the Sea Fury, and one of the aspects of that Sea Fury is the fact that it was one of, I think, only 2 or 3 aircraft to have successfully engaged with jet aircraft, because 4 Sea Furies engaged with 8 MiG-15s and downed a couple of them. And it's one of the last times that ever happened. It's that kind of history that inspires one, I think, or encourages me, if you like, to get involved in this. So I write these little pieces, which are no more than a few hundred words. Excuse me, I've got some plunder on my throat at the moment.
Okay,
but yeah, as I say, I think from that perspective, the two go almost together. They come together. One can't be said to drive the other. They work together. One without the other isn't, shall we say, as relevant.
Yeah. No, I was just playing a bit of devil's advocate there. That's what I was saying, because like we're saying, the thought is, does history inspire you to model? And I was getting to the feeling that it's not just the history that inspires you to model. It could be the subject matter, or what is it that inspire what is it that does inspire you to model? And if history doesn't, then say like modern warfare, like the Leopard tank, we're all waiting for that Challenger 3, aren't we? To be in a model kit, even though we haven't got it fully tested in the armies yet, or in the military yet. But there are people who are looking forward to building that Challenger 3 when it's fully operational as a model. So it's not always about the history, and also that we tend to build things that kill people or have killed people.
Well, to defend that just a little bit,
Yeah,
Not
Play
that-
devil's
not to be like,
advocate.
I look at it differently. I don't build things because they go out and kill people. I
Yeah.
think it goes back to when, especially us old farts, when we were younger, we built models, and then what would we do with it? We would go out and play with them. Okay,
Yeah.
so now that we've gotten older, and more refined, now we want something that we want to look at and make as nice as we can to have to look at, because there's other things now. The history intrigues us. The something something in miniature intrigues us, as real as possible, and things like other things take over that just building a toy to go out and throw at your next door neighbor and have a war with. So and I think you could even look at some of the old Roy Cross box arts, and you'll see that the planes are coming in and there's things blowing up around them. Well, what 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, regardless, in the Western world where they're growing, that's cool,
Yeah.
and they're all over it, because guys are guys. It's that gene in us, that things blow up. That's cool. Got to have it. Build it and play with it. So,
but then again, there was a brief history in time, and it still resonates now, where you had that Roy Cross box art sanitized so that it didn't show.
Yeah, because
warfare.
it's not nice anymore.
Yeah. War is hell, and you can't sugarcoat it. You can't sugarcoat any of it. But we tend to, because we think that it may affect somebody somewhere, somehow, somewhere, so it is a difficult thing, but to be inspired.
But then in terms of
go on.
I was just going to say, in terms of build, though, you never see, it's very, very, very rare you ever see a build diorama in a glorification of war. It's normally in some sort of reverence or respect for manner, or it's built as a point of remembrance. And so I think that's where, when it comes to sort of discussions around sanitized box art and that, the box art is designed to sell. It is designed to be attractive, and to people, young boys of, like Jim says, of that age, explosions are always going to sell better than just an image on a box. However, it's what it is. It's a tool to then teach, in my view, that okay, this thing, whatever it may be, might have done terrible things. However, there are stories attached to that. There's, for example, human stories of, if you've got aircraft, I don't know, the people who operated, the people who designed it. There's all those different elements, and just because there's, say, one bit which may be not culturally insensitive, but insensitive to some extent for some people, be it the box art or they don't like that, actually the history that is brought about, the conversations that can be had by simply opening a piece of plastic or looking at a piece of plastic, I think is very important. And that's why, for me, the history sells it to me. Is this is just the plastic is just a facilitator of talking about the history. It's just the representation. But once I've built it, once it's gone, once it's there, it's all the conversations that will stem from it, and the learning and the teaching and so forth and so forth.
Model companies curate the history, actually, to some extent.
Probably a lot of us had either a grandfather or a grandmother, maybe, that were served in the war. Whatever they were, what part of military piece they were on, either a Spitfire, Hurricane, some sort of military vehicle. It inspires that next generation to build that model and have it on the shelf and say, "Oh, look, my grandfather was in that, or my grandmother was in that." That helps as well, because then manufacturers go, "Well, we'll start doing this, we'll start doing that, we'll get that out, and people will buy it and build it."
I do wonder, though, just putting it out there, and I know that I'm not a car modeler. What is the draw with military? Because, for instance, if I look back over things that I remember growing up to, it'll be things like, I remember every Sunday or every other Sunday watching the telly and watching the likes of Nigel Mansell, Michael Schumacher on Formula One. But actually, out there, Formula One cars, not every manufacturer does a Formula One car, but every manufacturer will have a Spitfire in their range. But not all manufacturers will have a Formula One car in their different guises
Money,
in their range.
license.
Money, licensing, I think, is simply the answer to that nowadays. Because automotive as a subject exists, in it, you go around SIG, certainly in the UK, there's cars everywhere in many different forms. Formula One, I think, is purely down to licensing. If that didn't exist, or if there are open-ended agreements, I'm sure there would be absolutely load more cars and everything. I mean, look at Lego. I know it's not plastic kits, but since they brought their Formula One stuff out, that's sold like hotcakes, and I'm sure it would do exactly the same in plastic if they could. So I think that's why a lot of the military kit, most of the people who own the IPR now probably don't care, or it's so small in terms of monetary value that they're not bothered, so therefore they can get around the IP laws. Or, for example, the aircraft or subjects are so old that nobody knows who the IP exists to, and there's going to be no challenge, so you can just produce it.
I understand that, and I do get that, that side of it. If licensing is stopping or it is hurting that, but I'm just thinking of things that I remember as a 10. I was at the pub, ready. The things in my life historically that I remember, and and one of those things was that watching Formula One. So you would have thought that that Formula One cars would be huge in scale. They were. They're not so much now, though, are they? I can only think Hella released Formula One cars back in the day. Tamiya. I'm trying to think of the other company.
Revel did some.
Yeah, Revel did some. Jamie did some.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's not a subject matter, but you will always get some company release a Spitfire, release a Tiger, release a Messerschmitt, release a. So like the military, every manufacturer's now has got their own Eurofighter, or their own F-35B, or they've got their own F-14. It just seems that way that subject matter is, or historical subject matter, it always ends up back to the military. That's what I'm just wondering. What would
there may be a reason for this, and it may be that one of the things that stimulates human development more than anything else is actually making war. It's notable that developments that have happened as a result of the Second World War were astonishingly faster than in the previous. 20 years. I mean, if you look at, take an example of Gloucester Aircraft Company, who in 1938 they produced the Gladiator, which was a biplane fighter. 6 years later or less, they were producing monocoque construction, aluminium and steel jet-engined aeroplanes. Have a think about that for a minute. Now, why is it fascinating to people to build those kind of models? It's because they're fast. They're at the edge. Why do people build models of the SR-71 or the XB-70 or the Voyager probe? I mean, John Alec, there you go, great example there. The Voyager. Why do they do that? Because they look at that thing and say, that Voyager 2, most distant man-made object in the world now, or around, it's been working non-stop since 1977. Have a think about that for a minute. Have you got a set of batteries anywhere that will last that length of time?
No.
That's what fascinates people about this. I think it's that being at the edge, and they look at that. You look at the Spitfire. You look at you go forward to a Meteor, then go forward to a Lightning, then go forward to a F-35. They're all at the edge, aren't they? They're all right out there.
Luke's made a bit of an interesting point. The human condition will always draw people to weapons of war and conflict. It fascinates us learning ways to kill people. Has always been there. Sorry, if it fascinates us, learning ways to kill people has always been there. We are a species that are just very good at it now. It's a good shout on that. I can't argue against that.
Well, I mean, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is that the development of the jet engine, when Sir Frank Whittle developed his turbojet engine, it was from that we can now get in a little tin tube and we can fly from London to Crete for our summer holidays, and we can do it in 3 hours or 3.5 hours. It was because of that development that people were able to fly across the Atlantic in whatever it was, 3 hours in Concorde, when they could do that. That's development. That's people saying, yes, you can do it. And I mean, if we take the look at the 50s and the late 40s, 50s and 60s, the test pilots that flew these aircraft, like the Fairey Delta II and all the rest of them, these people were household names. They were so well known. They were like the celebrities of this day, absolutely unbelievable how well known these people were. They were in the magazines of the day. They were in the papers of the day. Rowley, who test flew the Vulcan, for example, used to wear a suit so that he could get out of the aeroplane and walk to see the cameras and talk to the cameras, because he knew that's what would happen. And we did amazing things back then. Absolutely bloody amazing things.
Well, it's Game and Camish said then, instruments of war, but invention of engineering brought to scale. Which is a good one. And also somebody wrote here, people like to build the Titanic as it's famous for sinking. And they don't build the sister ship, which went on for a few more years. So
True.
But I have seen the Titanic in the Britannic colours, which is white with the red cross on the side, isn't it? Because it was a hospital ship for a while. So it's
Moz, you say about obviously Formula One cars growing up with them, but then you've got things like the Need for Speed or Le Mans or the Daytona stuff in America. Living on the edge, which is what, like Zinzan says, people living on the edge. Those were sort of cars that you wanted to get in and race in. So they manufacturers thought, right, okay, we'll do all the Mans cars, we'll do the Daytona cars for Americans.
Well, and then, and Brett would back me up on this. America is a car culture. Especially from the 50s on, after World War II, and the interstates were built, and the car in every driveway, and that you could hop in your car and go anywhere you wanted to go. Take you a while, but we're very car centric, and I think that's why a lot of your car modelers are so prolific over here. It's almost a subculture in the hobby.
But you have the best cars anyway, though. To be honest, Jim.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
I'm a Toyota guy myself, but
there's also something else. Is that in the 70s you didn't have any issue with the price of fuel, did you? So the American companies could build what they wanted.
Okay, I'll segue here. I'll segue real quick. So back in 1973, and John and Brett again, we all remember the gas lines and the oil embargoes, and my parents got yelled at because they turned on the Christmas lights. How dare you waste energy? And it's just like, by a bunch of old people, you're like, come on, it's Christmas. But the thing is, I remember my dad complaining about the price of gas being 58 cents a gallon, and so, and back then, it was 58 cents was worth more, or whatever. You can still do the math, but still, that's cheap. And I think, yes, we were brought up on muscle cars of the late 60s and early 70s, and we all love them. Even non-gearheads like myself love the muscle cars. But you then you start getting in, and then we started making really crap cars like the Aries K cars in the 70s. AMC Gremlin and and then but then Toyota comes in and Nissan comes in, and hey, we're gonna they could see quality lacking here, and then they started giving Americans a quality product that was economic, and then the whole market switched and went that way. So but my general point being is, yeah, cars are very, very big over here, and they're big over there too, to a certain extent. But
the closest car, I think, and to be honest, you can slap me down for this. I think the closest car that we had on the roads of the UK that I would put as almost American in its soul was the Ford Capri. And Airfix had a Ford Capri as a model kit, and they bastardized it into making it a crazy custom. So it shows you how much they thought of the Capri. That was the Capri was, all intents and purposes, was the car to have because you couldn't afford a Jaguar E-Type. So
I don't think we could entirely be absolved from blame on the old Capri customizing front. I've seen some real horrors, and my brother had a 3-litre S Capri, which he had all sorts of goodies in, and he wrapped it round a lamppost fairly quickly because it was very difficult to drive.
Sorry, I can see myself.
No, it's only because the only Capri that was relatively simple to drive was the 280, because apparently it had a limited slip differential, which meant that you could go round corners a little bit more quickly and you could be a little bit less judicious applying the power. But he made the same mistake, I think, twice with different Capris, and got away with it both times. So there you are.
That's interesting.
Moved like a fish, looked like a fish, steered like a cow.
Yeah. Interesting history tidbit. World War II veterans at the time did not want a memorial. Instead, they had bridges, schools, and such named after them. A proper National World War II memorial got built in 2004. Yeah, I see that. Get a hospital wing named after you. I think that's having a granite stone there, but it is what it is. Memorial wise, it's I'd like
get roads named after you.
Yeah, if you do a lot for charity, you get a hospital award named after you, wouldn't you? So it's a good way of remembering someone, definitely. Morgan, dude, I'm modeling my own history now, essentially revisiting kits that I built as a kid.
Yeah.
We've all done that, mate. We've all done that. We've all done that, and especially that's one other thing. I see, the history of kits. You look back on some of the things that they produced in the 70s. You don't see a lot of that nowadays, do you? There's that fear in it. There's more fear of will it sell now than there is back in the day.
Yeah.
You think about it, as soon as a prototype was even sniffed on a drawing on a blue paper, a model kit manufacturer would have had a copy of those drawings and built something similar to that prototype. Hell, was it Airfix had they call it the YF Lightning 2, didn't they? It was under that was a prototype. It was many years later that they actually brought out a proper Lightning 2.
Yeah, but it's also like they did the MRCA Tornado as well, the prototype Tornado. When that first came out in like the Raspberry
MRCA.
Well, the P1127.
Yeah.
Another Airfix one.
53.
Yeah, that's another one that's set up there.
I think that is something that is actually lost today on manufacturers, is the history of prototypes and pre-service aircraft. That's probably the field that is most weakly served in plastic modelling, because you've either got to normally buy a resin kit or a very, very old kit. Again, tools back in the day when they were sort of like, we'll go out, we'll put our neck out of it.
One of the reasons why I thought that 3D printed resin would be very good for experimental aircraft builders and people who were interested in that sort of thing, because the limited production run of these kind of things would lend itself to that kind of thing, because the cost equation works out in some sense, So you've got models like the M52 that came out from, I think it was Aerocraft, Aerocraft. Brought out an M52, and there's all sorts of options for that. Dora Wings have just brought out a 1/48 scale Fairy Delta 2, for example. It's another one there. And Airfix brought out a TSR2, but haven't seen fit to bring it out again for various reasons. But there we are. That's a whole other story.
There's also another issue with prototype aircraft, and is that there's not many different airframes you can build from one kit, is there?
Though you are limited in that, yes, and again, there's another reason why the old.
So the companies they're very reluctant to produce a tooling for it.
Oh yeah, I mean this is why the old 3D guys could, it's quite easy to compare it. I'm being flippant when I say it's quite easy. It's comparatively straightforward. For example, to look at a Bristol Flying Pencil, for example, and think, okay, we'll make one of them. If we sell 500, then maybe the model works. I'd happily make a Fairy Delta 1, for example. And there was, I think, only one or two of those built. You could make a series of these. It's one of those things that has interested me as a result, mainly of the history. I'm segueing back to the theme here to some extent. But you can trace the development of aviation through these things and what problems they solved.
Barry will probably agree with me here, is that Matchbox, all of their howlers were of the aircraft that they tooled before the prototype even flew.
Yeah.
The A10, that's an example. So is the Alpha Jet they did. They were both howlers.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I will say, John, to where you're saying about, they don't want to do the production runs, is what I would say to them is I'd throw down the gauntlet a bit, go, do the prototype, and then do some what ifs. Do the TSR2 as if it was to go into service, because, for example, Extra Decal went and did the what if schemes, and every time Hannon's ever had them, they sold out straight away.
Yeah, but didn't Airfix produce? It was a special decal TSR.
They did the Japanese Stratos thing, yeah.
Stratos 4.
Stratos 4, which was lovely, but it was like. So, but then again, that's my historical thing of me going. It's Japanese girls in a rocket. Whereas for some people in sci-fi, they might go, "Oh, wonderful."
It's like the aviation world of Panzers, girls in Panzer, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Panzer girl. So it's a bit, but again, it's like, modular. If companies, for example, are worried about the fact of, I'm only ever going to sell one of these. Well, if you look back at like the 1960s and that, a lot of these designs, a lot of the aviation companies made mock-ups of in-service versions. So you literally have already, there's my release 2 with my extra parts, and then you can start doing stuff. And for example, like, what was it the other day in, I think it was in Beyond the Box Art, Dale was talking about they have to have kits that are also a bit more international now when they think about it. So like they were saying like Indonesia and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, a lot of these aircraft, if they had gone into service, would have gone into service with a lot of these other nations. So like you can easily then start catering to international markets. I mean, TSR2 would have done Australia, so you could do some Australian mark-ins. We might have even sold it to the Americans. Who knows? You could have put some American mark-ins on it or whatever. So I think
they were desperate to sell a CF-111, weren't they?
Well, they want to sell a CF-111, so I know it's not quite going to happen from a historical point of view. But you've got those alternatives to where history can give you the basis of this is a good idea. Okay, they ever did one prototype, but let's think outside the box, lads, and see what we can do. I mean, that's what a lot of the smaller brands do as well, and I think it's something the big brands can learn from. But again, taking it back to the question, history is always directing those sort of choices.
I'm just looking now because I've got a prototype Martin Baker plane here from some manufacturer.
Is it the MB5?
Yeah,
the MB5.
Yeah. It's got to be the MB5.
What's that? Sorry?
I mean,
it's got to be the MB5.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is I can't remember who manufactured it, but it's a small company. It's a proper plastic kit. But I'm trying to find it here. I've got it here.
I think it's Special Hobby did one.
Was it Special Hobby or was it KP Models? Kozyak.
It was one of those Eastern European ones.
It wasn't KP.
It wasn't KP. Are you sure?
I'm positive it wasn't KP. Didn't airlines do a back form one as well?
Was it AZ Models then?
It might have been.
Hang on.
AZ Models sounds more like
yes, it was AZ Models, yeah.
Could KP models release it though? I'm sure my.
I'll check. I'll quickly check for you. Hang on.
Yeah.
No, but I've got it here somewhere.
Because the other thing with prototype aircraft as well, and I think this is
it was a release.
an argument for success.
Release for 2025 release. It's here somewhere.
Yeah, it's fairly recent. It's fairly recent, that MB5. I think one of the best examples of prototype releases done well is Revel with their, do they call it Luftwaffe 46 now or P
Yeah,
series
Luftwaffe
aircraft?
46. They've done a number of them. That's Revel Germany.
They've done a number of them.
Yeah.
And they've done another rerun, which proves that they sell. So I think as long as you make informed decisions and you don't go so wacky out there, Airfix Japanese space girls in some sort of TSR2.
I think PM model does it as well.
Moss, you're right. Cobra Savodi Prostojove released the AZ model kit.
Yeah. I've got one. And I can't
You got the KP kit there?
I've got it here somewhere. I can't bloody find it.
I knew it wasn't their tooling. It was an AZ kit they released in their
kit,
box.
is it?
Yeah.
I'm just looking in my stash. I'm sure I had it here because I thought I'm going to build that next year. And do you know what? Can I bloody find it now?
It probably would have been the best propeller-powered fighter Britain would have ever put into service.
Until it killed its mate, though, and that was it then. It was put away.
Well, it had a similar wing to the Mustang, didn't it? It had a laminar flow wing.
It did have a laminar flow, right?
Yeah, it did.
Can I find it now? Spent my life looking for bloody kits. I spend my life looking at the kits that I've bought and then forget about, and then, honestly, I need to really look. I found it. Hey, I know it. There you go. There it is. But if you think about these, the Eastern Europeans, they are getting very, very good at bringing out prototypes. This is it. This is my prototype shelf. So I couldn't find it back. Here's one prototype they did, which was the Virgin, Atlantic Flyer.
That was AZ,
and this is the MB5.
Oh, wow.
That's kidding.
And do you know, when you look inside, it's a lovely kit. It really is a lovely kit. But and this comes with resin as well. It's got resin wheels for it. That's why. But you look at the detail on it and everything. It's a beautiful looking model. But when you've got the likes of Airfix, and this is a criticism from me. Apart from the SLS Artemis, everything else they've released, and I'm not talking about the Stalwart and everything.
Oh, no, we're talking
everything
about
else.
stuff.
Yeah, I'm talking about, apart from the SLS Artemis, everything else that they release is safe.
Yeah. There's a lot of companies that do that.
Yeah, always safe.
I mean, there was somebody else that brought an Artemis out in 144th scale. I think it was 144th. But it wasn't the Airfix kit, it was somebody else.
Yeah. And I'd say, everything's got to be safe with it. And that's saying that you've got the likes of A model here. And they've done and it's a really basic kit. It's very global fire. Who's got the phone? Whose phone's that?
That was mine. I'm sorry.
Right.
Next
time you owe me a beer, all right? Every time it goes off, you owe us all a beer. I don't know how you're going to get it out. Mind you, you bought Brewdog now. You can have that. But, as I said, it's a lovely, it's 3 sprues.
I'm going to call Jim.
Yeah.
Everybody's hard up for a beer.
But as I said, this is a company that, isn't, they're not flush with cash. And instead of doing things that are basically, ease of, they're guaranteed sellers.
Safe, yeah.
They haven't. The Flyer isn't a guaranteed seller, but they've released it and you can still buy it now. And again, with with this one here, and I think that what I like about the KP model even says here that they give you the colours paint shoes Humbrol. So it's they're keeping it British that way. But I just thought it was I didn't realise how lovely the MB5 looked. There's something special about it. You look at it. There's what
It
they
just
call
looks
it.
like a turboprop Mustang to some extent.
Yeah, that's
Do you know
what
what
I
it
mean.
reminds me of? Reminds me of the Spiteful.
That's a good shout. That is a good shout.
It's very similar to the Spiteful, but I think the MB5 would be the better plane.
Yeah.
But the best thing is if you can get it to exactly what the box art looks like.
I like the grey scheme. I like the grey scheme for it, to be honest. But yeah, apparently this prototype, it was 1944, so it was the end of the war anyway. I don't think it would have made it into production anyway, whether the guy died or not, because we were onto the jet age by then, weren't we? So, but again, you got really good, clear instructions with this company. Simple build, and and I said, but it's not safe. It even comes with a masking set. And I think it was about £12. It wasn't that expensive at all. But the proof of the pudding is obviously putting it together. Oh, I get that. But but like I said, with Airfix, everything's got to be safe with Airfix. So.
I remember building a MiG-9, which was an AZ kit, and plastic's weird.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to get at with the word safe, and I'm trying to make sure I'm getting this right with people. When I mean safe,
you mean low risk?
There's not many ways you can change that Artemis kit, and also that is a prototype, that Artemis kit, because the next Artemis, the Artemis 3, will be different, and the Artemis 4 will be different because the missions are going. It's not like Apollo 13 right up to 17, or even 11. It's all the same.
Yeah. And this is what you're saying here about prototypes and slightly different variations and stuff. This is one of my big bugbears, and they sort of addressed it again in the Beyond the Box art, is when they say about ships, going, "Oh, we can't do ships because the tooling really big and it doesn't really change, etc." Well, a lot of ships, the basic hull and the superstructure very rarely changes. It's a lot of small little bits that will change, and you can get quite a lot of runs out of a particular class of ship as it goes through different refits. Now, I understand, again, a bit like, most things, it's probably not a safe bet. But, like you say, Moz, we want them to be generally a little bit more edgy. They're a bit more edgy sort of when out there. Brilliant. But the same goes for ships, I think, in my opinion, as it does prototypes. Okay, you think you can build it as one, but there's loads of different variations that you can do.
Yeah, which is a fair comment. But so this is why I keep saying that they're not going to ever build a Bearcat because Airfix. What can they do? They can do They can do two. They can do the F8F1 and the F8 and the F8F2 because they're different rudders on the back. The longer tails on the back, but. Other than that, there's not, unless they do a scheme as a Blue Angel, or they can do the yellow version. That's it.
Yeah, but is that where, for example, what ifs?
Yeah, but like Lysander, you've already had 3 schemes in the last 4 years.
Yeah. I think the company that's most likely to build a Bearcat would be Hella.
No, Revell, actually.
No, the Bearcat served in the French era Nivelle, didn't it?
Yeah. But then the Revell have got a bigger presence in America than Airfix have.
Yeah, true. Or
Hella. And the worst Bearcat out there is the Revell one, because you have to build the wings up together, then you push the fuselage over the top of it's like, what? Oh, the Aurora kit, isn't it? I think that's what it is. And to be fair, the best one out there is the Hobby Boss one.
Yeah, I built that's nice. You're right.
And then the Trumpeter 132nd one, which I've got up there that Nigel gave me. That's my next one to build. you know, is all right, but it's very soft. It's a very soft looking kit.
Have you got the frog one, Barry?
No. The only frog one I've got at the moment,
Didn't they?
is the Hellcat.
With the amount of drop down ads I've had, I'm sure this Airfix and Chill is sponsored by Jadlam. I went to Jadlam on Friday actually. I took the normally us as a scale model club, we have like we go out for evenings for a curry every so often, and I said, why don't we go to Jadlam for the day and have a meal up there? And 9 of us went up there and had a day out around Jadlam and spent a few quid up there. I think Jadlam were really glad to see us. I came away with bits and pieces from Jadlam again.
So you didn't go in and pick a chick up.
Which reminds me, at the end, I was sure it says at the beginning of the show, but I have Model 1, which I bought from Jadlam because I wasn't going to do a review on mine, but I did actually build it. I ended up building my as you might have all seen the video, I've built it now, it's all done. So I bought another one to do the unboxing at the beginning of it to show what the sprues were like, and I'm going to give it away today. So if you're watching, when this finishes, not in the chat, in the comments, write, I want this in the comments, and then next week I'll reveal who wins this Model 1. It has been opened, everything's still in the box, right? It's just the packaging's been opened because I've done a review on it. Yeah. It's all in there. It's a beautiful kit. The tracks are the wrong way round, or are they the right way round? Who knows? But if you want to win that, when this finishes, go into the comments and say I want this, and we'll pick one next week, right? And somebody could win that. I paid £30, by the way. I paid 30 quid. So
not a bad price for that.
Not a bad price, and it's a 2020 tooling, so it goes together like it goes together lovely.
It's
not least.
It's got to be infinitely better than the RPM kit.
Sorry, Paul. I did say in the comments, not in the chat, so you're disqualified. You're disqualified. You're disqualified. They're disqualified. I said in the comments after the show. Right, Lox 9, you're disqualified as well because you're not listening. No, you can't put things in the comments when there's a live stream on, you see. So, but yeah. So when this finishes, go into the comments and write, I want this. And then there'll be people going, why are they saying I want this in the comments? And I'm not going to say nothing. They're going to have to watch this through to see if they want to win. I'm going to do that from now on, So yeah, I want this. And whoever, as soon as it finishes, put it in the comments.
That's pretty savvy. That's a good idea.
I'm full of ideas, me, John. I tell you, I'm full of ideas. Oh yeah, such a greedy bunch. Anyways, why isn't there more? Oh, that's a good question. Why isn't there more like cruisers class ships like the HMS Belfast and HMS Caroline? And I think Ben's already answered your question.
Basically, no one wants to take a risk on it, and if you try and explain it to the Chinese with Trumpeter, bless them, you'll be there all day. But I think it's a worthwhile thing doing. I think certainly like even modern ships where they're really modular and you basically change big blocky things on the side of it would be easy to tool. But it's down to size of tooling and variation of subject, and most people won't, be able to. They won't be interested in the molds, sadly.
Yeah, but if you put the feelers out there, Ben, somebody might want to take it on.
Oh, I'll happily shout it from the rooftops. But again, it's talking to the manufacturers and trying to say to them, look, this is what you want to do. Like as I say, Airfix, I'd be doing the new Type 26s and 31s if you don't want to do the Queen Elizabeth class. But again, that's a business decision for them, unless someone wishes to. What's it called? Is it Magic Investor or something, whatever they call it, where you know, they just give you a bunch of cash and go do it. So
Yeah.
you know, if anyone's listening who wants to invest in Navy ships in models, I'll take a couple of £100,000 to go and do it.
I would love to do my own model. In fact, I would love to buy Airfix and just, you know, I would love to do that. And if they, you know, now they've so scale electrics, there is hope that I will be able to buy Airfix at some point. James Hepwell, James Hepwell's absolutely spot on with this. The sale of such items as Spitfires, which sell well, allows money to be spent on less well-known types as Gannet, etc. Just a thought.
Yeah,
I love that argument. I've heard it so many times. It doesn't wash anymore because they've done that Gannet, and it's £60 odd.
Yep.
They've released it again. Use the fucking money from the Gannet that they've released the second time, and do another kit with it. Don't just say, "Oh, we're releasing." I don't buy that argument anymore, gentlemen, because they've made a fortune from the Ferret Scout. They said they've made that Ferret Scout sold amazingly well. Okay, so then you don't need to release no spit. Use the money then from that Ferret Scout, surely. If it's so brilliantly well, you know, and so release something else. Don't use the excuse of bringing out a tiger to pay for other subject. That's bullshit. If that Ferret Scout didn't sell well, then I understand. Yeah, you've used the money from the Stalwart, you've used the money from the Spitfire to pay for that fail. But when it's been a rounding success, that's bullshit. It's a bullshit argument. It's a bullshit argument. Because if that's the case, then why aren't we getting these ones that aren't to pay? You know, I just think it's a bullshit argument. That does anyone else agree? Sorry, Jim.
To a certain extent, I do agree with you.
Yeah.
But with a company like Airfix, I agree with you. Tamiya, the big guys, I agree. Why do another one? But your younger companies, your Kotaris, and things like that, they need to break into the market, so they have to have something right away that's going to sell, or they're going to die.
It's just going crazy.
You know, I get that, but that doesn't wash either, though, Jim. Qatari, that doesn't wash me either, because Qatari, and I'm being honest here, I'm being blunt, they are crowdfunding their tooling, so don't give me this crowd. Well, no, I think they're going to be crowdfunding others as well, aren't they?
They've done a second one. They are crowdfunding.
Okay, I didn't know about a second one. All I knew about was British Bomber or whatever.
Yeah.
They were going to.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying, though, Jim. It's this idea we're bringing out another Spitfire because they sell and it helps pay. No, because if that was the case, then why are you doing same subjects? That you knew damn well a Ferret Scout was going to sell. You know damn well a Stalwart's going to sell well because there's no other ones out there.
Well, but again, is a Stalwart going to sell well for Airfix? Yes, in Britain. Okay, in the UK, everywhere else, and that goes back to my whole argument. Airfix needs to, I would think, would want to stay. I'm not going to say should. Would want to stay British subject centered focus because your market's right there. You should do like the Japanese do, Tamiya and Hasegawa. Used to be Hasegawa. They cater to their home market, so Airfix should cater to their home market, and they've already done Spitfires. But you know, I just I just think that we hit a nail on the head here.
We hit something.
You got to look at each company individually, where they hail from, and how they think they're going to make their monies. Kotari, New Zealand is 30-second scale exclusive. Okay, that's the path they're going down. They're but if you look at their model, they're probably kind of expanding on the things that they heard when they were Wings, and it was nothing but World War I. Well, when are you going to do World War II stuff? You know, well, that now we're seeing it because now they're not affiliated. Yeah. So they're breaking into. I could see why they would do a Spitfire, and the 109. You know, it's just a natural progression of things. I just think it's hard to throw that blanket statement out there in regards to all manufacturers, regardless of that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but there was this. But it's been used as an excuse for years, you know, and I just think it doesn't wash on me, because we know damn well that if it was the case that we use this to release tools, release kits that that are niche markets, or then release kits at niche markets. The Gannet, I would say, was a bit niche. The Lysander wasn't niche. And you know damn well, if you produce a Lysander, everyone's going to buy one.
I mean, are you saying, Moz, that you're no longer buying the corporate bullshit of, like you say, where they go, yeah, we do this with Spitfire? Because I can tell you from someone who works in the shop, every time they redid the Spitfire, either as a new tool or the Reeboks, those were the kits in the model shop specifically that sat the longest. Every other subject sold first before a Spitfire, because the majority of modelers, unless they have a Spitfire fetish, they are not interested in doing Spitfires, because they've done it as their first one, they've had it from whatever. Maybe the Australians love them, maybe the Americans love them. But I mean, I've been to there's a shop I frequent in Italy as well that does models. And for example, they have loads of Airfix kits there, which is again a bit bizarre. You'd hope they would sell better. But what they have mostly got Spitfires. What actually sells is, like you say, the slightly odd subjects, the slightly different subjects. And I think, yeah, in terms of saying it's a bit tongue in cheek with the whole, we manufacture Spitfires. You do need your staples, of course you do. You need the things that give you cash flow, but you can't turn around and say that we're only doing Spitfires because it's the only thing we're making money on. Because if that is the case, you're making some bad tooling choices. Because that's what you're also technically saying as well.
Goat is brilliant. The money they made from the Gannet, they could mold another Spitfire.
Well, they probably molded that 109, for example, didn't they, in 24 from that money? I mean, great little 109, but it wasn't anything exciting apart from a G.
But I'm under the impression, and I'm sure I've heard Airfix and Revell say it in the past, they don't make any money from the first release. They make the money back on the tooling for that first release, and then you've got the money. Then every other next release is when they make money on that tooling, and that's a fair. There's your investment, and your return is third year. I get it, but when I hear when people say, Ryefield Models are bringing out a Tiger 1 and it's going to have all. Well, why are you doing a Tiger 1 for? Why don't you do some of let's see a decent T, whatever, or an SU-22 or something. I don't know. It just doesn't wash with me that when you're established, it's like mini art.
But here's another argument. Here's another argument, Moz. So, well, let's go down the armor road. Not an armor guy, but I know a few. And it's like, okay, why another Tiger tank? Well, could be better than the last one. Let's see what this is. And there's a lot of armor guys that are very not even subject driven in a certain era, but a certain nationality, shall we say? And if that nationality's coming, they'll have every Tiger tank made by every manufacturer. Just because that's their jam. And they're all about it. So I definitely see your point. I just don't think it's 100% of the time.
No, that's what I mean. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that this. When somebody says that, let's release a Messerschmitt BF109G in 148.
Okay.
I just I understand why Revell are doing the Messerschmitt now, because unbelievably they didn't have one in their range, or they had one that was like a 1960s tooling. So I get all those sort of things, but just to say that because I firmly believe, and I wish I've never asked Dale or Airfix this. I firmly believe at the bottom of my heart that their most profitable range now must be those starter sets.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they're best in class. I mean, even before I mean, I was still working at the shop when they bought probably, I think, the first and second year's worth of releases. So that was, I want to say, when they had the Dogfight Double, the Best of British set, like the Hawk and the Spitfire. And that. Those, anytime someone came in new, it was like, you want to start with Airfix, unless you don't like the subject, then maybe Revel or something. But if you want something good, that's easy to build and quality, it was always Airfix. And those were brilliant. They sold all day long. They were the right price. The only thing that ever let them down, as most people know, was the paint and the glue. But in terms of the kit quality themselves, fantastic. You can't get better. And I think, ironically, that's somewhat history. I know when the conversation was about history, that this is actually the history of modelling informing the present, whereby what did most people build as a kit? And this is a generalisation for the UK. It was an Airfix kit. So whenever you go somewhere and they say, by the way, we've got Airfix starter sets, the parents or whoever, the granddads, whatever the vintage now go, oh, yep, that's exactly what I built. That's what you want. And so Airfix has sort of got in their own right a little further ahead of the competition already in people's minds, because they're like, what was the starter set I had? Airfix. What do I do? Airfix starter set. So they sell well. And as long as they're tall, better. I mean, everyone remembers the god-awful Seahawk they boxed from the 1960s, as a starter kit. But now you get the beautiful, Spitfire and that it just builds so well. And I just think that's where Airfix excels. If I was going to have a kit informed by history of where Airfix should redo the entire range, is 48 scale Harriers, because they did it to the 72nd about 10 years ago. They could do with updating, but for example, the 72nd Harriers are absolutely fine to build. Is the full 48th range, all the way from the P1127 up to the GR9. I think if they did that in 48, that would, be brilliant. Yeah. Tornado first, please, Dale, if you're listening. Get that Tornado done, because you will be murdered or whatever if that doesn't come out within the next few years, or you'll have pitchforks in Margate. So Tornado first, but then the Harrier.
I suppose manufacturers have their bread and butter. I mean, it's Airfix have Spitfires, Hurricanes, 109s. Revel have they're all like kits that they produce every year. Tacom, Trumpeter, they all have their own, because they know they're going to sell at the end of the day. And if it's their basic range that they sell, then the buyers will buy it.
Yeah, I think though they need to give that bit of pizzazz, and you can look back again, keeping it sort of to the subject of history. You can look back at British Cold War icons now, because I think they've worked it out that Cold War is where the money's going to be now, and the sooner they get on, both in aircraft and vehicles, that they are going to make more money, and they should be a little bit more adventurous, and maybe they should stick to the British stuff. But certainly, I think a Tornado is going to be due. In armoured vehicles, it does look like they are going to do the entire sort of Saracen, Salamander, all of that family, which is good. And just, you've got literally 50 years of history of technology. You pick any one of them, you'll be fine. If you pick another Spitfire or a late Mark Spitfire, just no.
If I could look at the playbook for Airfix, there's nothing tracked in their future when it comes to World War II stuff. There's no need. Everyone's done it. If you see the successes that Airfix have had, it is the stuff that's underrepresented. And I think that Airfix have gone, there's accurate armor, there's a blueprint, let's just go for it. And then boom, it all come out. And you've already had the Ferret Scout, you've had the Stolly, you're now getting the what's it called? The
Saracen.
Probably get a Saladin at some point. So if we look at that playbook, and when people say, "Oh, Airfix need to do ships," no, they don't. Hella need to do ships. That's what I think. Hella is the ship guys. Revell, they do their German stuff. Let them do it. Let Airfix do what they do. So and like I said, the things that they've been successful in is those things that are underrepresented. Going to go as far as the Spitfire 124th, the BF 109 in 124 scale, the Lysander, the Jag. You look at these kits that have come out in the last 5 years, underrepresented in this model.
Yeah.
So why would they do and let them stick to that core? Because I think they found where they need to be, and to bring out that Ferret Scout, I think they pulled a blinder, to be honest.
Yeah, I do. If Airfix are listening,
Yeah,
stick with Cold War armor and aircraft, and the helicopter scene for the 60s is greatly underrepresented.
yeah.
So there's a topic.
Sorry, so you can go back.
There's a topic for next time.
What's that, Jim?
There's a topic for next time. You find yourself the recipient and in Bill Gates' will, and you now have unlimited amounts of cash. You're gonna either buy a model company or start a model company, and what are you going to be your first 10 releases or whatever? What are you?
Well, you know what Moss's first new tool's going to be, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, the bloody Bearcat.
Halifax.
24 scale Bearcat.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Yeah, I don't think it'll be a 24 scale Bearcat. It'll be a 148 for sure, but it'll be the dog's bollocks 148 Bearcat. And definitely, I'll tell you what though, if I think about it, I would have a 148 Alpha Jet. I would have a 148 GR Fiat
G91.
G91R. Those are the sort of kits. I'd even probably get a one. I like the Fokker Wolf 189. These are the sort of kits I want because they're underrepresented. They're not.
I think ICM do a 189, don't they, in 48?
Oh, they do, don't they? Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
No, the 172nd, did it? Or was it 148?
No, there's a 48 one as well.
148, yeah.
Taneri have just released a 48 Sarajevo. Bet that's nice.
Yeah, those are the sort of things I would have done, because they need to be done. They're not done by anybody else, are they?
No.
And I tell you
I
what,
would like a Wildcat helicopter. That's all I want.
Well, I'm sure Revell can do that for you. Ben.
Oh, I've been lobbying hard for the last 12 months. We'll see what happens.
They need to produce 48 scale Beaver.
See, we know the Puma in 135th. Yeah.
Matchbox Revell do a 32nd scale Puma.
Yeah, 132nd.
Is he talking about? I was going to say, is he talking about the armored vehicle or the helicopter as the Puma?
The armored vehicle. Armored vehicle Puma.
Oh, is he talking about the 234?
It's also a helicopter.
It's also a helicopter. That's the thing.
Well, they'd be in 132nd then, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be 135th, would they? Helicopter.
Yeah, but 35th helicopters are now popular, with the armor and that.
Yeah, so armor.
A lot of choppers in 35th now.
Is that right? Yeah.
Represented.
Yeah, they're appealing to the armor builders.
Moz, your Airfix catalog would be massive. Yeah. I know. If they hired me, which they won't, I know exactly what they would do. I would say, those are the kits they need to do in 148.
Yeah.
And you know what? They can, and I said, if they did do the Fiat and the Alpha Jet, like I said, and they're a flop, then they can do another Spitfire to cover the cost. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
Airfix
Moss would also have a new tool, Concord.
Yes, but they're doing that. They've got to be doing that, Concord.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. See, like I remember talking to him. I think it was with Luke. I think it was when Luke was at Airfix, and I'm sure he said that when we released the Best of British Concord, the gift set version, it never sold well. And I said, well, why do you think that? Why do you think it never sold well? Because every Tom, Dick, Harry, Moz has already built it twice. You know, the Revell one's shockingly bad. Yeah. The Hella one, put it in the bin. That 172nd one.
That's terrible.
It's a dog shit kit. But the Revell one is all right. But if you were going to build, the best out of the lot is that Airfix one. So they're not going to buy it. You're not going to buy a kit you've already done.
No.
You want an upgrade, a better version.
Well, and this is the thing, though. If they did the Concord, they could do, well, basically the pre-production versions, more or less. The standard one, they could probably, with modern tooling, actually change the nosing over, depending on how they assembled the kit. So you could even probably include the prototypes in there to some extent, if you change the front and the rear or the tail. But also, again, thinking outside the box, they can do some of their what-if magicry about it, and they can do the Royal Air Force transport version or the bomber version that they never did, you know, with what is it? Is it blue steel? I'm trying to think. The missiles, 2 blue steels underneath. You know, so there's loads of options,
melted, weren't they?
Yeah. So you've got several versions you can do with Concord, and I mean,
plus
you can obviously do the French one if you want, or Pan Am. Yeah.
I mean, that Pepsi Concord looks beautiful.
Oh, I don't want to know what the license fee would that be on, John. Jesus.
It would be a fortune, wouldn't it?
Tell me about
I mean, I suppose you could ask Red Bull for a cheap version.
Do you think Red Bull would do a livery for Concord if Airfix asked?
Of course they would. Red Bull put their livery on just about anything.
Yeah.
Well, Red Bull's got a Bearcat in their stunt thing, haven't they?
Yeah.
There we go. See, you've got something else you can do now. Red Bull Bearcat.
Red Bull Bearcat.
That's a future buddy build, isn't it, Moss?
Oh, mate.
How many different Bearcats can you come up with from your own brain?
Well, it is what it is, isn't it? CCC, will the latest conflict delay Airfix new releases? Probably.
Yeah.
We don't know. You know, I've asked Grok what he thought, because apparently Grok knew they were going to attack them on the 28th of February, allegedly. So I've asked Grok, and Grok have said that there's no timeline for these releases. So,
right.
Yeah. Given the Northern Ireland schemes for the Saracen, expecting the Flying Pig fold-out riot shields, that would be cool. Rifle models have released several Tigers, and they sell out, and they sell, just the same as Spitfire. But one does get bored. There is more interest in German armour, same as Spitfires.
Yeah,
you're right.
Do you think there could be a market for Airfix to release like Cold War British soldiers for the Northern Ireland campaigns?
Ooh, I can see that being a political. That's going to end up in the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah, especially with what's going on
56
government
years
at the minute.
ago, aren't you?
Sorry, Mike, what'd you say?
I said, especially with what's going on with the government at the minute, with them trying to get rid of the legislation protecting Northern Ireland veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the vehicles, like I say, it sort of goes back to that earlier conversation. If you have the vehicles on their own, without the sort of wider context, they sell. If you start doing soldiers and poses and God knows what, yeah, it's a bit of a...
I could understand if they did a pack IRA.
Both sides will be contentious.
Just want to go back to his comment, Andy Preston, all made in the UK, Moz. No. Do you know what I would do? This is serious. I would go to India and say, you can continue making our kits, and I'll give you £1 more for the top of the price of those kits. But if I get 0.5% return rate, I don't pay the bill for those kits. And I'll tell you what, then they will be there double checking every single kit that comes out of that place. India can produce really good scale model kits. It's the quality control at the end of it. Because like I said, you don't see a short shot on an F gun, do you?
No.
That is what I would do. I would offer them an extra £1 on every kit they manufacture. But if I get a 0.5% return on kits, I don't pay my bill. Or and that will be the way to do it. That'll be my terms. If India don't like it, they can piss off. That's what I would do. That's what I would say. I would offer them an incentive, but but if it comes back and it's bollocks, you don't get paid.
So if India balls it up, where would you go to?
And how much more would you be paying?
What's that?
Because they haven't had any hassle out of Academy, have they?
So I missed all that, John. Sorry. What's that? Say that again.
If India balls it all up, would you go to Academy and ask them to produce the kits? Because I can't remember there being any issue with their.
I wouldn't go to Academy. I would go to Poland.
Would you?
I'll go Poland. I'll go Poland.
Yeah, it's closer as well, isn't it?
And also, what I would probably do if I went to Poland, I would probably share it amongst all four. I think it's 4 of them. All the 4 manufacturers out there. Each get a piece of the pie. But that's if I have all the money in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm proud.
But if you had all the money in the world, you'd set up your own tooling. Let's be honest, a manufacture plant.
Yeah, I wouldn't set up in this country. No, fuck off. I'm sorry.
You got all the money in the world.
Yeah, I still wouldn't do it in the country.
Too expensive here.
I wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't even do that because I think owning a company in the UK is bullshit.
Yeah.
You would go out and bring the product in because that's how they've made the rules like this. Is unless the government changes, you would manufacture outside this country. You haven't got the skill set in this country anymore. Every tooling is made in China because they continued educating their citizens in that manufacturing of tooling. So
it's actually worse. Yeah, it's actually worse than that, Moz, because as many manufacturers have found, when you offshore your skills, in other words, you stop making stuff, the people who know how to make things, and mass producing stuff is not easy, it's bloody hard, they go away, do something else, and those skills are then lost.
Yeah.
And so not only is it very expensive to run a business in this country because of the way that the whole thing is set up now, but also you're going to have to train your people to do this, and that's going to be very expensive too. So we've got this horrible chicken and egg situation where in the pursuit of various ideological aims, we don't have a manufacturing industry any longer.
Yeah.
This is madness.
Yeah. So that's why, and also, if you think about it, if I did, I would be more inclined to split shipments. In India, split shipments to the UK, to Australia, and to America, and they would cover my bases for Airfix kits. That's how I see it. I run a business, and I hate our government. They don't support me, and they just take from me. What have the government done for me in supporting me in my business, apart from up the rates? I'm a tax collector on VAT. I am more broke now being, I would be, well, I should say, because we split the company now, because we've got 2 entities. We sell new and we sell old. If I hit the VAT level, 20% gone, because I can't claim that back because the stock I buy or the old stock, there's no VAT on that because I'm buying it from auction house. There's no VAT.
Mhm.
So, and I said that is just a tax collection. That's all it is. But yeah, I don't, yeah. The UK, if I could,
Toy, please.
I would, I would still have a base here, but I think India have got the labour, and they can produce good stuff. What I'm trying to get at is that I've had 2 Jaguars from Airfix, and fucking balloon shit. I've got to get rid of that. I've got two Jaguar kits here, and they are, and I've opened them up because so I've built one. One's half built and one's there. I opened up both boxes and I looked at every single sprue, and there was an inch of flash on them. There was no warp parts. There was no parts broken off the sprue. They were perfect. It's a perfect kit. The Stolly, we had the issues with the Stolly.
Yeah.
But that was their mistake, and India have kind of, I think they're taking some of the blame for it, and they're looking at the tooling again. The Sea King came. I had no issues with that. No short shot. No nothing. India if you pick up a good Airfix kit, look at it, goes together well. You can't tell me that India can't produce good kit. It's inconsistency of the short shot is the issue.
Yeah, but that's always.
Yeah,
but
that's it. They
that's
can
always.
produce good kits. Go on, Ben.
But we've always known that because the quality of Airfix tooling, certainly since probably about 2018, has been among the top. It has been that QC that's let them down.
Yeah.
They compete from a tooling perspective a lot of the time with Tamiya and Revel in terms of buildability, and it is the fact that the reason why Tamiya is their production methods are so crisp. If you find short shot, or anything in the Tamiya kit, you're either lying or you have been so unlucky. Whereas with Airfix, at times it has been pot luck depending on the batch run. And it would be the case of, in this particular conversation, of if you did pay £1 more or 50p more, would that actually improve, the return that they would get?
But then if I get a 5%, if I get a 0.5% return on my project, I wouldn't pay the bill to them. Say, look, I offered you £1 more, and you fucked it. But by and by, I'm just saying is that when and you all know I do my vintage classic releases.
Yeah.
4 on the bounce have had a problem because I think they produce those vintage classics because they're quite cheap as well. Some of them, I think they're in a corner of that factory in India. That's where it is. Where you've got the premium tooling or machinery is doing all the new ones. Like, I've not heard anyone say they've had a problem with the 148 Spitfire Mark 9 or the Mark 9 trainer. No one. I've not heard anyone say they've got short. They've come out. So India can do it. This is what I'm trying to get at. India can do it, but they let themselves down. Now, I don't blame India and I don't blame Airfix for the Messerschmitt BF109 warped wings. I think they were packed tight because if you watch the Bodley Goes video, he puts it on his desk and it is warped. Leave it a couple of hours or leave it overnight, it goes flat again.
Yeah.
I think they got bent in the box, in the banking area. So that I don't know who you can blame for that, but if you leave them out, they will go flat. But I've had warp kits before, and I've just dusted them under some hot water and left them, and they've gone flat. You know what I mean?
Same here.
There's nothing wrong with the tooling. All your bits are in the box. The decal scheme's fantastic. The masking set, okay. People said they had issues with it. We'll fucking have something else. That's a cartograph issue, that is. But what I'm saying is that India can produce good kits, so why are we moving from India? That's what I'm trying to get at. You see what I mean, lads? You know, you've got to look at it from all angles.
So if
But,
when I redid my floor, just to so this is American product, American wood, American flooring, and it was solid wood. It wasn't laminate. It wasn't anything.
Yeah.
And on the box, it tells you, you've got to leave it out. It tells you leave it out in the room that you're going to install it in for a few days, so that it will acclimate and it'll flatten. It levels out. It flattens out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, temperature. I mean, India, right? It's the friggin' tropics, right? And so, stuff's it's heat. It's coming in these ships that aren't they're not air conditioned, right? And so it's the same thing. If you order something and the postman leaves it on your front porch and it's summer, it's August, dude, it's gonna be warm. It's gonna warm.
Yeah, but I don't think the plastic would reach that higher temperature to warp like that. I think, like Moz says, it is the fact it was just packed tight, and because it has been left in the container ship for 6 months or however long it's taken, flex like that. Once you take the force off, it will naturally return to what it was designed to be molded as.
Yeah,
but again, on that particular story regarding the wings, people jumped on the back of Airfix quality control going, oh, it's terrible quality control, rather going, no, they've just packed it tight, you bloody idiot. It's not rocket science.
But give them time and they'll relax, right? That's
what it did. It's only because it's been packed like that for 3 months on the sea, and then once you unpack it and everything, like you say, you leave it on the side, it will naturally go back. It's a bit like what is it? There's stuff how Amazon packs stuff on certain of their products. If they've left it really tight and you've got to have a bit of plastic tubing or something. Again, you just leave it on the side, it straightens. It's just packaging.
Boss Mustang UK builds the Tamiya Jägermeister Porsche 962C injection marks in the body and in the molded in glazing. Maybe in a bad batch, but even they are not perfect. Yeah, mate, I've heard that. I think that was on Brit Modeler. I think I read on Brit Modeler there's a couple who had that same problem with their Porsche. Yeah, they're not perfect. Bad batches, but I think the problem is that, and I say this, and I'm saying this in reverence, right? As a YouTuber myself, I hate the word influencer, but ultimately you are an influencer. People watch your videos, and what you say and do can influence somebody who's watching your video. And I think you have a duty to be, not pragmatic, what's the word? To, when I do a review or I do a kit or I complain about something, it's that you focus it on that it might be just you. You don't make it like it's the end of the world, and that's what happens with some of these reviewers or these reviews. I never tell you to buy a kit. I tell you my thoughts on the kit, and I tell you how it looks to me. It's a great kit. It looks good. Blah blah blah. And I then advise you, if you want to buy one, I don't say go buy one. I say if you want to buy one, you can buy one from Airfix website, Gadland website, or wherever I can find online. And yes, I do get a commission if I do it through Airfix. I get that. So do what you will with that information. Affiliate link. But I've not said, oh, buy this kit. It's brilliant when it's not. I tell you what I think of it, the problems with it, whatever. But if you want this kit, here's a link, and it does help the channel. And that's how I review. You never say it's a crap kit, because at the end of the day, I can review all these kits, and unless they're tooled in the 1980s or 1990s, I can't necessarily say they're going to be they're going to be good kits. They're going to fit together well. They might need a bit of work to them, but ultimately, most kits nowadays, at least from the last 15 years onwards, including Airfix, they're not crap kits.
No.
So that's the way to look at it, That's like saying an MP never lies. Yeah, but yeah, that's true. It is. The Airfix kit doesn't. This smell from these kits were the old. Because people say they've given up their distribution center. They haven't. They never had a distribution center anyway, or warehouse. It was up in Canterbury. Now it's moved to Davis Turner. But where they were at, that company used to export and import spices. So that's why the kits sometimes smelt. But they shouldn't get that now because they've now moved them to Davis Turner up near Manchester. It's like a massive. It's the same place where Love Honey send their products out from.
Love honey.
Yeah.
So,
We'll tell you when
If
you're old about.
you have a dildo in your box instead of an Airfix kit, it's because they distribute Love Honey as well, and Budweiser beer, by the way, as well. So,
I mean, people get their pleasures from different bits of plastic, clearly.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've often grabbed an Airfix bag and put it over my head and had a danger wank. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, bloody hell.
Mark, you're now entering the tasteless zone.
Yeah,
Ben's too young for that, dude.
Yeah, we got through 2 hours nearly without you saying that.
I mean, we're past the 9 o'clock watershed. We're all right.
All right then.
Yeah, that's right. Anyways, folks, it's come up to 10 o'clock. And
And on that bombshell,
Thanks for watching.
Japanese.
Yeah, sweet dreams, everyone, with the plastic bag over the head as you envision it.
Exactly.
Don't forget, use fresh batteries.
Fresh batteries, yeah. Thanks all for joining us tonight. Remember, if you want to win the Marder one, put in the comments, I want this, and we'll pick one. I'll tell you what, I'll get Ben to pick one next week. I'll get him to go through the list.
I'm in Rome next week, so I won't be picking it unless you want me to
Are you in Rome next week,
from abroad. I am in Rome, I'm afraid. I'm going to watch the rugby.
You're in Rome to watch rugby, so we're sending you back home, are we?
Yeah, I'm being sent back. I won't use the other word. Yeah, I'm being sent back to the home country.
Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week. Have a good one. Take care. And cheers.